I come from a third-generation construction family, so all my summer vacations were spent at construction sites. That's me at 9 years old, learning how to operate a dozer. And at that point, I used to see my father build these amazing structures, and immediately at that point, I knew, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to build. It brought me so much joy. Fast forward to maybe like 9, 10 years later, and I was in my second year of architecture school. I hear about this competition to design a hospital, just a concept. I say, okay, fine, let me give it a shot. And I try giving it a shot, and then I end up winning the competition. And it was just a concept at that point. They loved it so much that they're like, why don't you come on board? And why don't you actually help us design it? So instead of going through research books, I spent a whole year interviewing doctors. And I spent my time in hospitals. I went to college in the morning, and then I would drive and listen to doctors, listen to nurses, listen to patients, ask them what they wanted from a hospital. And then I would go home, and I would teach myself the software to get these drawings ready. Because in architecture school, they didn't let us, they only wanted us to hand draw. But only through the lines of my computer. And it all sunk in once I took this picture. I stood in this courtyard. I was like, oh my God, everything that I've designed, I'm actually walking through it right now. It's in concrete and steel. And a year later, I stood in that very same courtyard. This is what it looked like. And I couldn't believe my eyes. It's like it is completely finished. A project that was started to look like this now served thousands of people a day. It received international accreditation. And I was 20 years old. I couldn't believe it. And we've been fortunate since then. The firm has grown. The reason why I mentioned this project was because in that time, working in such close proximity with these doctors, I came across this phrase called Occam's razor, which basically said, the simplest solutions are most often the right solutions. So we always wanted to inculcate this in our design principle. Even when we design a building and architecture, we always look at what is the main problem, and then what is the simplest way that we can solve that problem. 2 projects that kind of imbibe this principle. To start with the first one, I want to go ahead and speak about the Greek civilization. They built in stone because at that point in time, the most abundant material around was stone. And similarly, if you look at the Mesopotamian civilization, they built in brick because they didn't have stone around them. They had the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, so they would dig up the clay, bake it, and they would build in brick. But we're not doing that today. Today, we're using outdated materials. We're dredging up rivers, we're losing ecosystems. If you actually sit and think, what is the most abundant material that we have? It's trash. All around us, we know what are the adverse effects of trash. We know that it costs a lot to handle it. It's a great pollutant, and it has a lot of widespread disease. What if we could turn this on its head? What if instead of paying to deal with this much of trash, what if we could make it into a precious commodity? So what we're trying to do is convert trash into construction bricks. So now there's a 2-step process. First, what we do is we design these trash compactors that you can put on every street corner, and they're solar powered. So what happens is during the day, when you fill it up with trash, it actually charges, and at night, it compacts the trash, so the volume is greatly reduced. So when your municipal waste management handlers come in during the day, the actual volume that they have to deal with is much lesser. So now, since you know that all the cities in India have started waste segregation, depending on different kinds of trash, we make different kinds of bricks. So you have like the cans and stuff, you have like it's a little bit heavy construction brick, and then you have the plastic bottles, which we build a framework for them, and then they make another, they're like a lightweight. And then the lightest, these plastic sheets, which we take to like earthquake-prone areas. So even if there's an earthquake, there's no loss. The second project is something that we conceived at Columbia University with 2 of my classmates who are now my partners. It's something that we're all here for. It's about the art of storytelling. It's all about the spoken word. Since time immemorial, people have always sat around a fire and told stories. And with time, our stories have gotten grander. We've had more music accompaniment, we've had movies. We started to think, what if we could build an infrastructure that would support the spoken word in today's context? What if it could be completely deployable, which means you could send it anywhere in the world. It was low cost, so easy to manufacture, completely all-inclusive, and it was flexible because you have to take it all over the world. You have different kinds of terrains, indoor, outdoor. So the next step was, okay, let's look at the world map. And then we saw all these shipping routes. And we're like, okay, fine. The logistics of getting something all over the world has already been figured out. It led us to the shipping container, which is basically, it can be taken by sea, it can be taken by air, and it can be taken by land. And we know that it's a prefabricated product, so it's pretty quick to set up. There are in excess of almost 500,000 containers a year, and it's a great opportunity for sponsorship. So like, okay, so how can we make like a performing arts, spoken word center with just a shipping container? This is what we came up with. Basically, a 40-foot shipping container, when it arrives at a site, in under 3 hours, and with just 3 people, turns into a 250-seat auditorium. And it has a complete sail with it. And this sail has photovoltaic cells sewn into the fabric of the canvas. So basically, you can just drop it in the middle of a desert and you're good to go. And it's also extremely flexible. You can put it on slopes, you can put it anywhere you want. And these projects, all of them started as just concepts, and now they're well on their way to we've actually built working sections. After a black box theater, we're building a black box clinic and a black box school. So, for me, the biggest lesson has been to never underestimate the power of the hypothetical situation, and always, always think out of the box, even if the box is a 40-foot shipping container. Thank you.